Hello everyone, this is a short update on current reading that's happening at the moment for me. I'm kind of sort of in the middle of a couple of 3 books, and I've just finished one pretty well, kind of like yesterday. So I'm going to talk about that as well. But the first book that I'm going to talk about is this, Doing Ethics by Lewis Vaughan, Moral Reasoning and Contemporary Issues. Now, I got this because some people were talking in the comment section of a YouTube video, and it was mentioned that this book was one of the set texts for undergraduates at university at that time, which is pretty recently as well. So naturally enough, I wrote that down and thought, I wonder what that actually says. I mean, there's lots of controversy nowadays about what is actually being taught in universities, particularly with respect to in the humanities, and basically whether or not people are being indoctrinated with one particular thing rather than actually educated to think for themselves and to actually be able to allow themselves to appreciate reality. Well, Doing Ethics hopefully might have something to say about all that, at least by association. It was published in 2008, so that's how recent it was. And well, looking through it, I've kind of looked through some of it, yeah, well, the topic of ethics, of course, is something to do with morality, but of course it is, and morality is something to do with being good or being bad, being right or wrong, and sort of cultural norms and the like. Okay, well, but at some point, what we do is we come to the idea of argument, which is beyond the Monty Python sketch about having an argument, and whether or not we are using our spare time as well as we might. But what it says is that on page 7, I think it is, it instantly gets to the idea of what an argument is. And well, it's a sort of kind of a logical set of reasoning, is it not? And that's the kind of argument that we're interested in this particular book, rather than the other kind of argument, which, as I'm sure you've already guessed, would be something like an angry exchange. Yeah. An angry exchange, yeah. Okay, this is not supposed to be an angry exchange. I mean, you'd think that being educated, particularly studying something like philosophy or even ethics on its own, would allow people to at least appreciate the idea of an argument, or a reasoned argument, or a logical argument, rather than the the other well-known version. Anyway, yeah, it's a very good book, I think, as well, and it's amazingly readable. I mean, I'm kind of reading it more like as a sort of, kind of like a musical book, as if, I'm learning kind of like guitar or piano. What do they call them? Stage, level, something or other. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, blah. Basic, learn the piano or something. And I'm sort of kind of trundling through it at a good little pace. So on that score, I can recommend this as not just a boring old school textbook, and well, maybe the front cover is a commentary to that as well. That is, I don't know whether you can see that very well, is a bunch of leaves basically, and it's a work of art by Andy Goldsworthy. Is that his right name? Yeah. And if you're interested, I think it might be worth looking him up. He amongst other things, he comes up with a novel way of involving hedges in art. Check it out. Okay, to get a little bit of an idea of what this book is kind of like, I suppose, is that it says this: contrary to the popular view, rejecting cultural relativism does not entail intolerance. In fact, it provides a plausible starting point for tolerance. A moral objectivist realizes that she can legitimately criticize other cultures. and that people of other cultures can legitimately criticize her culture. A recognition of this fact, together with an objectivist sense of fallibility, can lead her to an openness to criticism of her own culture and to acceptance of everyone's right to disagree. And I'm going to leave it there. There are ethics in the examined life, subjectivism, relativism, and emotivism, moral reasoning, theories of morality, non-consequentialist theories, virtue ethics, be a good person, ethical issues, euthanasia and physician-assisted, blah, blah, capital punishment, pornography and censorship, equality and affirmative action, human values and the environment, animal rights, warfare, terrorism. That's it. Doing ethics. Doing lighting is obviously not my thing. So yeah, there's that one. The second book is perhaps related, and that is Felipe Fernandez-Armesto's Truth, a history and a guide for the perplexed. So this is a fairly short little number that he knocked out in about 1990. And I mean, if you know about Fernandez-Armesto, then you'll know that he is interested in anthropology. He's interested in the value of past societies that would have been past societies from our own geographical location, but are still current in various places. And everyone's favourite tribe at the minute seems to be the Hadza in southern Africa, seemingly. And I did kind of sort of have a go at him a bit about the whole concept that the Hadza, according to him in his book Civilizations, is in actual fact they have a better life than we do. I mean, they don't have any sort of kind of things like cancers or heart disease at all. Nobody dies or has has problems from diabetes or whatever it is. There are some things to say about getting up in the morning at dawn and walking 2 miles to haul down a hive of bees in order to have breakfast, and to go on from there a round trip of about 15 miles, doing sort of a bit of hunting and a bit of gathering on the way. Great for activity. You're doing that 2, 3, 4 times a week or whatever it is. You're going to be active and you're going to get the maximum condition for one's innards and the like. But to go the whole hog, as it were, to say that their society is better than ours entirely, that basically we're all living the same life as the Hadza, there'd be more happiness, there would be more contentment, there'd be more, satisfied lives being lived. Well, I guess, I can't see that at all. I can't see how that's the case. And he does seem to have gone, he's gone too far. The old human institution of going too far with things. But, having said that, back in 1990, the way he approaches the topic is quite interesting. As you'd expect, he does so through anthropology, effectively, and what was the truth for societies in the past, such as they are today. So the Hadza, what do the Hadza believe in, and where is what element does truth play in Hadza culture, for example, and obviously places elsewhere. But he starts with a fairly kind of challenging thing for those of us that have come across or were at university and were required to reckon with various ideas in philosophy. So he writes in the kind of preface, I think it is, isn't it? What's this called? Yeah, the preface. Page 3 or something. At present, common sense is caught in the crossfire of a culture war between extremists who think they know the truth, and religious extremists and secular nihilists who think it can never be known. Yeah, oops, I read that wrong. The crossfire of a culture war between religious extremists who think they know the truth and secular nihilists who think it can never be known. My hope is to put our crisis in context, to reassure readers that the search for truth is still on, and leave relativists and fundamentalists where they belong, on the margins of history. So that is the start point, and as far as I can work out, he doesn't overly deviate from that, pretty much. So, yeah. On page 15, we have to me, study of the history of truth has suggested the opposite, and will do so, I think, to the reader. Societies like ours, in rapid states of transformation, sometimes need to retrieve lost or vanishing wisdom from their pasts, or borrow it from other peoples whose experience of development has been different. And as far as I know, he kind of practically is advocating, what we can learn from people like the Hadza tribe in southern Africa today. You never say apparently. I don't know whether that is real for everyone. Yeah. Advocates of noble savagery as a model society have always thought so and still do. The great anthropologist Claude Levi-Strauss, whose anxiety was also to exempt the savage from contempt, recommended sociological planning on the lines of Australian Aboriginals. The integration of emotional life with a complex system of rights and obligations in Melanesia and almost everywhere. The utilization of religious feeling to establish a viable, if not always harmonious, synthesis of individual aspirations with the social order. Good life refugees from the excesses of civilization imitate peoples they place close to nature. So, I'm not very far into this. Fairly typically for me. I'm a little way in. But it's very readable, and it's sort of intelligible, and it's not too mad. I mean, it's not kind of bonkers or anything. He's not sort of theorizing absurdly or anything. So, thankfully, pretty sensible, more or less, I think. Okay, that's that one. And the book I finished is this one. This is Leo Tolstoy's What is Art? So, this is 167 pages of Leo Tolstoy's style of argument, you might say, I suppose, together with his premises and all. And he is definitely someone who has an opinion. And I guess that's why he ended up with disciples, making their way out to I want to say the name of his house. Yasnaya, yeah. I have Albanian neighbours currently, so I've been learning the Albanian language. Vajza and Diala, Bilbilave, which means the boy whistles, and Vajza, Gumazima, the girl hums, or is it Kendom, which is sings. Their mother has that kind of classic kind of Eastern European kind of what would you call it? Kind of like a musical. It sounds almost half musical. Anyway, maybe I'll edit that out. But anyway, here we are. But it's an amazing front cover. You can see that. It's called cellule d'or, the golden cell. Whatever that means. Well, there we are. What is art? What does it mean? Or what's it supposed to mean? What ought it to mean? Or what ought it to do, I suppose. So, During his decades of world fame as a novelist, Tolstoy also wrote politically in a series of essays and polemics on issues of morality, social justice, and religion. These works culminated in What is Art?, published in 1898. Impassioned and iconoclastic, this powerfully influential work both criticizes the elitist nature of art in 19th century Western society and rejects the idea that its sole purpose should be the creation of beauty, especially when beauty, in actual fact, means basically sort of enjoyment or pleasure in the generalized idea of the word. Of course, it's almost impossible to forget that the context for his life and his writing of this book is, of course, Tsarist Russia. So, I'm not sure that there are many people who would complain about the idea of at least some kind of change happening in Russia. Whether or not they needed to go the whole hog and have a full-on revolution is another argument. Whether or not the Bolshevism was the answer, well, that appears to be a question that has been answered for us over the decades and generations and people's lives and their bones probably as well. But to implicate the rest of Western society in his thinking is perhaps challenging, and then again perhaps not. I mean, one of the points that he makes is that art is being produced, or rather art used to be produced for everyone back in the Middle Ages. That art was basically religious. That art was basically kind of therefore for everyone, and it was to be found, as far as I can tell anyway, in kind of like churches. And that at some point, when people started putting colour and line and form and shape onto canvas, then it became rather exclusive, and it became the appellation, shall we say, of the mega rich and the rather overly wealthy of their day, from kind of like, I don't know, the Renaissance onwards. Well, that's one of the things that he says. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that lots of Renaissance painting is basically religious painting. If those paintings are hanging up in the private apartments of cardinals and Italian counts and the like, well, that is one thing, sure. But if they're hanging up perhaps in churches, on church walls and the like, well, that is public and religious. So, I'm not entirely sure as to whether or not Tolstoy is being accurate with that idea. Perhaps you can help me out, anyone out there. I mean, I've been to the National Gallery numerous times in London, and I walked up the corridors of the Renaissance art sections and walked down them again and walked up them again. A lot of them are religious, and is that it? Or is it just a sort of a narrow corridor view of things rather than, a wider expanse? But there we are anyway. That's one of the things that he gets at, and he says he gets in depth into everything that he thinks is wrong in the world, and everything, and he has the answers for it as well, which is surprisingly or maybe it's not so surprisingly. How shall we say? Familiar. I'm going to go with familiar. Yeah. He does. He covers sort of kind of the philosophy of art in a way. I mean, he does so really critically. I mean, he's got no problem picking out a whole bunch of people and just saying that lot are all wrong. No problem. Whether or not the case he makes for that is so very excellent and is much of a good argument, well, that's up to us reading it through. But he certainly doesn't mess about in terms of putting down his opinion and putting down lots of philosophers and artists as well, from France, Germany, Italy, England, not to mention Russia. And that's not just painters, but authors as well. According to his criteria, there's all sorts of authors that are just rubbish. They're just rubbish. At one point, Dickens got the rough end of Tolstoy treatment, but oddly enough, he was sort of redeemed a chapter or two later as doing things that are about right. So there's that thing there with, I do recall two young ladies having a little discussion about whether or not Dickens was better than Tolstoy or the other way around. Maybe this book will give some insight, or further insight, if you haven't already read it, as to how that might play out, as it were. So anyway, on that inquiring note, Tolstoy's What is Art, 1898, and is pretty readable, and who knows, might even be relevant to this day. So there we are, that's those. I will be continuing with Historathon, or I'll be hooking back in to Historathon 2026 with some great stuff. I've got too many books to really choose from, but I think I'm going to do Blanning first and see how I go from there, and not get too overly ambitious about what I think I'm going to be able to read. But yeah, Tim Blanning's The Penguin History of Europe. Yeah, that's the one for me. So anyway, I hope summer reading is still happening, and certainly the regular weather has returned to England, so perhaps it has elsewhere. Happy reading, and bye for now.